Hello, friends of Studio Burley. This is Steve Burley, and it is coffee time. Cheers. An informal session where I go over some of the things that have come across my desk in the last few days. I want to say hello to the regulars out here. We've got Sean Lenkus and Daniel and Troll with a Purpose, Pritmaster Marson, Lassert, Jose Viguija, Calvary Music, and I missed somebody there, T800, Ramo 7. Welcome to the show. I want to draw your attention to my VIP Club membership card to the patriarchy. And this authorizes me, of course, to talk about all of the evil comings and goings of the evil feminist empire that has extended its thousands of evil tentacles all the way around the world in well-funded feminist organizations. And while I'm at it, drawing attention to the patriarchy card, at one point in the past, I suggested that I would be giving out these uniquely numbered cards, rather selling them, or giving them for a donation of $10. And I was looking over my email in the past few days and noticed that somebody had actually sent me in one of these with a note for a patriarchy card, and I missed it. I'm going to go over my my emails for the last couple of weeks in the looking for patriarchy card requests. And if you do want one of these patriarchy cards, for a donation of $10, make sure you write in there for patriarchy card so that this flags my attention. And if I get say 5 or 10 of these requests, then I'll continue on with it. If not, I may just make the bid from time to time to offer the cards out for sale. They will all have unique numbers, and I am tracking them. This is the chapter of the Studio Burley. So, answering Sadi here, I think Parlay is what you're looking for. I think the Twitter alternative. I'm not in there yet. I might sign up to that, although I've heard mixed reviews about it. Now, if you remember yesterday, I went over the letter and response to the cancel culture, one that was signed by a group of people, and we talked about a group of academics and well-recognized celebrities almost from around the world, including Noam Chomsky and Steven Pinker. And we talked about the attack on Steven Pinker to have him canceled. And so, yes, good idea. Have a sip of water. There's something caught in my throat here. Give me 1 second. In any case, just last night, I was looking over some social media stuff, and it turns out I want to go over this again. I'm going to remind you the Harper letter before we get started. So let's get right from the top here. This is the Harper letter of a bunch of celebrities who are complaining about cancel culture. They're bemoaning it. This was in Harper magazine. So going over it here, the democratic inclusion we want can be achieved only if we speak out against intolerant climate that has set in on all sides. And we talked about this in some detail yesterday. This is the left, who are basically responsible for cancel culture. Reading on. The free exchange of information and ideas, the lifeblood of a liberal society, is daily becoming more constricted. Keep in mind that many people rightly say that nowadays we don't have a liberal society. The liberal society have become the fascists. We don't have anything resembling classic liberalism in our world today. The closest thing to it is in the men's rights activism and the anti-feminist activism. That's the closest thing that comes to classic liberalism in our world today. The people who call themselves liberals, have drifted so far to the left that they have become fascists in every sense of the word. And it is that group who has brought about cancel culture on campus and out into the society in general. It started on campuses where feminists dominate absolutely everything. So let's continue reading this. While we have come to expect this on the radical right, Censoriousness is also spreading more widely in our culture. An intolerance of opposing views, a vogue for public shaming and ostracism, and the tendency to dissolve complex policy issues in a blinding moral certainty. That they project onto the right. And they're calling it the radical right now to disguise the fact, to make it easier for them to condemn and associate right with an extreme right, the way they used to talk about the right. So this is pure projection. It is the left who is guilty of all of these things that they are trying to pin on the right. And now they are upset that this monster is coming back to bite them. Sorry, I lost you there for a minute. Let's carry on with reviewing this particular letter. More troubling still, institutional leaders in a spirit of panicked damage control are delivering hasty and disproportionate punishments instead of considered reforms. Editors are fired for running controversial pieces, books are withdrawn for alleged inauthenticity, journalists are barred from writing on certain topics, professors are investigated for quoting works of literature in class. This is all coming from the left. And this is all coming from feminism, which has completely saturated the universities and taken control and bullying everybody on campus. Cancel culture started with feminists on campus. It started back in the early 2010s. It was already in place in 2012 and 2013 when we were doing our work on campuses with Warren Farrell, Janice Fiamengo, and others, all of whom were attempted at being canceled. Let's read onwards. We need to preserve the possibility of good faith disagreement without dire professional consequences. If we don't defend the very thing on which our work depends, we shouldn't expect the public or the state to defend it or us, or for us. And we won't. We don't. Those of us who have been watching the situation are sick and tired of you pretentious, pompous asses. You have been the source of campus culture, cancel culture from the beginning. And they are only upset about it because the monster is trying to eat them now. Now, this is what we talked about yesterday, and I'm not going to get into a big long rant about it because I do have a long rant about that in the second half of yesterday's coffee session, and you're welcome to go and review that if you want to see me all hot and bothered about this topic. Now this, coming from Summit News, which is Paul Joseph Watson's blog site, I believe. And if I'm sure everybody here is familiar with Paul Joseph Watson. He is a fearless blogger. He calls it as it is. He calls it out, and he is almost always on the money. The guy's got guts. Now, let's read his title here. Fearing cancellation, some withdraw signatures from open letter decrying cancel culture. It didn't take them long. I got to enjoy that one. This one is almost too true. This reminds me of back when Sarah Palin was running for politics and Saturday Night Live. All they had to do was repeat her words and it was funny. These people didn't last one day in support of in decrying cancel culture. Let's have a look at what Paul is highlighting here, and do read his whole blog post. It's quite good, and follow Paul wherever you can. I think he's been canceled in a number of areas already because he's cutting too close to the bone, too close to the truth. Reading this quote. Following its publication and pushback from leftists, some of the signatories caved and publicly withdrew their support. They just want to oppose cancel culture until cancel culture comes for them. No backbone whatsoever. Let's read this. I did not know who else had signed that letter, tweeted Jennifer Finney Boylan Dog. I thought I was endorsing a well-meaning, if vague, message against internet shaming. I did know Chomsky, Steinem, and Atwood were in, and I thought, good company. Coward. Coward and idiot. The whole lot of them. Let's read this quote from the top. This is one of the tweets that Paul was referring to. People who signed a letter concerned about cancel culture being concerned they'll be canceled for being concerned about cancel culture due to guilt by association makes the point way better than the letter itself could. That is so worth reading again, shall we? People who signed a letter concerned about cancel culture being concerned they'll be canceled for being concerned about cancel culture due to guilt by association makes the point way better than the letter itself ever could. You're absolutely right. These are as cowardly a group of people as you can ever get. They are cowardly when they supported cancel culture because they were too afraid to face their ideological opponents in an honest debate. So they shut them up. And now they're afraid to even complain about cancel culture when it's canceling their friends. I'm sure glad we didn't have them fighting for us in any wars or building this culture. These are the people tearing down our culture. And here another one, Carrie Greenidge, whoever that is. I do not endorse this Harper's letter. I am in contact with Harper's about a retraction. She put her name on there and then got upset when it was risking her getting canceled. Oh, the spinelessness of the left. It's just incredible. You cannot write this stuff. The spinelessness. They won't stand up. They can't stand up for their own principles if they could find one. Let's read on. Here is Carrie Greenidge in her Twitter account. She calls herself a historian. Fine. Anyone can call themselves a historian. I read some history. She calls herself a scholar. Now that is a joke. Anyone who can't have the scholarly backbone to stand up against cancel culture is no scholar. But you know my opinion on that. I think we should be shutting down the entire education system from kindergarten right through to grad school, fire them all and make them all apply and compete for the jobs again, and kick out every last one of them who didn't stand up for cancel culture. And there won't be very many left after that who didn't stand up against cancel culture. Cowards, the whole lot of them. And here, J.K. Rowling, well, at least she's sticking to her guns. Now, she responded to this Jenner Finney Boylan. Oh, I guess the dog bit was her little icon there on the side. Must have got translated in the copy or something. She's the one who did not know who else had signed that letter. But J.K. Rowling fired back, "You're still following me, Jennifer. Be sure to publicly repent of your association with Goody Rowling before unfollowing and volunteer to operate the ducking stool next time as penance." Ah, the cowardice and the infighting. You on the left started all this crap, and you just can't stick to your guns about it. At least Rowling is. She's taken a few shots, but she is a made woman with countless billions of dollars. She's got nothing to fear. She should be doing more to stand up for cancel culture. And this is Jennifer Finney Boylan. She says she's the author of 15 books. What? 15 books on how to be a rat with the tail between your legs? Oh, it's on dogs. Ah, well, you're the dog with the tail between her legs. Let's read on here. This meme was posted in that Twitter stream as well. And here it is. Cancel culture is real at the top. No, it isn't, says the tyrant. And the left are the tyrants. They're the tyrants of our day. Shame on anyone who can't even see through it at this point. It's so frickin' obvious. Let's read onward here. Vox journalist Matt Iglesias was also reported to his own employers by a transgender colleague because she claimed his support for free speech and his association with J.K. Rowling was an anti-trans dog whistle. This term dog whistle is being invoked to criticize anything, no matter how legitimate it is, to try to shoot down any critic for anything. And here it is here, the tweet that brought this out. Matt Iglesias has been reported to his employer by a colleague for signing an open letter which argues that a climate of conformity, fear, and mutual surveillance has descended upon public intellectual life. Just read those words there, because this is exactly true, and they're demonstrating it in spades as they all run, not all of them, but as many of them run for cover and trying to pull out of their support of complaining about the cancel culture. These words here are exactly the words of tyrannical fascism. It is a climate of conformity, fear, and mutual surveillance brought about only by the left, dominated by feminism in the university systems. These are the fascists who are bringing cancel culture to our culture, who have brought it and who enforce it. It is feminism that has infested not only an education system, but our entire culture. It is a disease that has to be eradicated. No tolerance for bigotry. And that means get rid of feminism. Now, this brings me to this other article that caught my attention last night. And it is these feminisms that are responsible for this very thing as well. The left, the BLM, which I have made the argument that is really a feminist group, just another feminist group like ecofeminism and financial feminism. BLM is angry black women feminism. Reading opinion at the top. Why is painting over a BLM sign a hate crime, but these vicious assaults are not? This came out yesterday, and this is a very good point. Let's read this quote. They face up to a year in jail if convicted. Plenty of non-racist people disagree with Black Lives Matter organization because of its openly Marxist core tenets. But painting over a street mural bearing its name is a hate crime. Really? Exactly. Why is it a hate crime? Black Lives Matter is just a cover group for Marxist feminism. Here they are painting over the hate sign. You've probably, painting over the hate sign, the BLM sign. And they are charged with a hate crime. Why aren't any one of the many vicious, unprovoked, seemingly targeted assaults against white people recently being charged as hate crimes? Am I even allowed to ask? That is the fear. That is a genuine fear in this culture. Are you even allowed to ask why these targeted, violent crimes against white people, why are they not called hate crimes? Because that's exactly what they are. Let's have a look at them. You're probably familiar with some of them. Reading from the top. Why is this man hopping out of a car, sneaking up behind a white 12-year-old kid who was dancing on a sidewalk and sucker punching him from the back with a full power haymaker, which could have killed him, not being charged as a hate crime? You've seen this video probably. And notice that this 12-year-old kid is dancing and singing with his black friends out there. This is not all black people. These are the racists who are sympathetic with and members of the Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter is racist. Black Lives Matter is a bigoted hate movement. It is intent on bringing in Marxism into our culture. And this guy here stopped and pulled out of that car in behind and danced his way over to secretly hide his plan and knock that kid out for no reason other than the fact he's white. That is a hate crime by any definition. Any definition. He's being charged with 2 felonies for his brutal assault on that child. Sure, but why not a hate crime? Painting the street is a hate crime if it's done by white people over a Black Lives Matter sign. But this, nearly killing a white kid for being white, is not considered a hate crime. This society, the reporting of it, and the execution of justice is proving itself to be not worthy of our respect. Not worthy of our respect. Here's another fellow here. He was attacked by this guy in a Macy's store. Macy's stood behind him. This guy is charged with assault, but he is not charged with a hate crime. And this one, 5 black men attacked this guy as he came out of a convenience store. They surrounded him and just about beat him unconscious. And they're still, I think they're still looking for them. No, they've caught them. Let me just get a couple of more pictures here. Here they are again. There was 5 of them on one at one point. The group of 5 black guys mercilessly beat and stomped that guy as he exited a convenience store. The victim said one of the guys kicked me in the face and said, "Black Lives Matter." They were doing this specifically because he's white. And they are not charged with a hate crime. Why is that? This is a legitimate question. And the fact that they are not charged with hate crime should make all of us lose respect for our justice system. Justice is either blind or it's bigoted and targeted. And right now it is certainly not blind. So it's bigoted and targeted. And that does not deserve our respect or our support. This guy, wandering by a 92-year-old woman and knocked her over, banging her head against the side. Only and only because she's white. That is a hate crime. And why is it not charged as a hate crime? Because our system of justice is not blind. It is not a system of justice. It is a system of politics. And even that system of politics is afraid to stand up to the hateful bigots of Black Lives Matter. Reading from the top, that young black guy pushed over that helpless 92-year-old white lady. She hit her head on the fire hydrant that easily could have killed her. Not a hate crime? What other motive do you suppose that guy had? What other motive other than the color of her skin? And this final last one here. You're going to see this one here. I'm popping the quote up first. A young black guy mercilessly beats a helpless old man inside a nursing home for what seems like an eternity. Seems to not be going forward. Whoops. Let me get that out of here. Yep, got myself a little out of sorts here. Hold on a second. Now, where was I with this thing? Here we go. This fellow here, in this nursing home bed, this guy, you can see the video online, beat this guy mercilessly for God knows how long. And why? Only because he was a white man. Why is it not a hate crime? There's, you can see the face of the old fellow there. Because he's white. That is the definition of a hate crime. This guy's YouTube channel was full of videos talking about black people being the superior race and God's chosen people. He was not charged with a hate crime. Why would anybody trust our justice system when they can't even execute it equally? When it is clear and obvious. And this is the last quote from that particular article. None of these brutal assaults are hate crimes, according to our justice system. But the 2 white people painting over a street mural paying homage to a far-left revolutionary organization, the BLM, are guilty of one. BLM, who doesn't even support their own black men. BLM, who want to tear down our culture and replace it with a Marxist communist society. And they are charged with a hate crime. What? Are we already a Marxist fascist society? It sure looks like it. We are already a Marxist fascist society. They will not charge hate crimes when they are done. And they are charging you with a hate crime for opposing an ideological movement. What else can we say? What else can we possibly conclude from all of this? Here is the answer as to why these aren't charged as a hate crime. And the answer, which I tweeted, and I'll expand this for you. Because it is socially acceptable to hate white people today, especially white men. In fact, it is encouraged, which is why it is happening so frequently. And it is no secret, folks. We've been talking about this for decades, and this channel has been talking about this for 8 years. Feminists have been preparing the culture to hate white people and hate white men for over 50 years. They got into the university systems and they've been putting out their fake propaganda research for 50 years, all aimed at preparing the culture and acclimating us to accept the hatred of white people. And they've succeeded. And now that it is happening in front of our faces, they're turning the other way and allowing it to happen. We have to turn this situation around. You cannot have an anti-racist society, a free, a liberal, a diverse society when you do not enforce the laws equally. We've passed that point. So, folks, that's all I have prepared for you today. I want to remind you, if you are interested in one of the patriarchy cards, a $10 donation, but don't forget to write in the comment or in the PayPal description that this is for the patriarchy card. I will not keep offering this if I don't get very many people interested in it. But for the time being, I'm going to offer it, and I'm going to look back through my emails to see who has already put that request in there, and I have missed it. Because if it's not clearly marked for the patriarchy card, I am likely to miss the email. So I want to thank you for joining me again today and remind you, do not forget to do something you love today and every single day, because things are going to get worse. Feminism dominates every pillar of our society. They are bullies. They hate us. They hate us for being male, and they're spreading the hatred of people for being white. In spite of that, we have to find ways to and actively seek out contentment, enjoyment, and satisfaction in our lives. I'm going to be talking about that on videos to come. In spite of being surrounded by enemies who hate us, we need to have a great life. It is our enemies ultimately who will make us strong, just like it is our opponents in a sport. The better our opponents are, the stronger we will be for beating them. And we will beat them because they are wrong. Evil like this eats itself and ultimately destroys itself, or makes it incumbent upon us to destroy them. And it is evil. All good, right-minded people will abandon the left eventually. They have committed too many crimes already. They have spread too much hatred and bigotry already. They can't walk it back anymore. It is impossible for the feminist left to walk back the enormity of their ignorance, hatred, and bigotry. So, having said that, folks, I hope you join me again tomorrow for Coffee with Steve, and do something you love today. Oh, before I go, I did see something come across here. Thank you so much, James Burlow. I'm going to acknowledge you. for supporting Studio Brûlé. I really appreciate it. And James says, San Francisco is trying to pass a Karen law, making it a crime if they feel you call for a crime was racially motivated. Well, I'm not familiar with that. I heard some rumors about it, but I don't know what it's all about. But I wouldn't be surprised that they're going to continue to ramping this up. They're going to continue to double down, triple down, quadruple down. The enemy, these fascist, hate-filled, bigoted feminists and their allies, have no intention of ever slowing down. So, having said that, James says also, in other words, the criminal is non-white, but your call is considered the real crime. It could be coming to that. You know, I've been watching this evolve since the 1980s, and I've always thought, well, this is as bad as it could possibly get. But I've always been proven wrong, usually sooner than later. So, folks, do something you love every day. And I hope to see you tomorrow with Coffee with Steve.